Would you buy a house that wasn't connected to public water or public sewer systems? Listen, I know a lot of people who actually do not want to be connected to public systems. And in Oklahoma, you have that option. So let's talk about why so many homes in Oklahoma have these private systems. Okay, so a lot of homes in Oklahoma have the private well system or the septic system, and this is really common. So why is this common? Well, it's freaking expensive for a city to put in public systems all over the place. And we just don't have the revenue as a state to do that. And so the infrastructure lies in the properties themselves. So properties may have a well, they may have a septic, like a septic tank, or maybe a regular aerobic system. This is pretty common, and I see it a lot. Even within the Oklahoma city limits, this is a thing. If you're on any sort of acreage, meaning even half an acre, you're probably going to have one of these private systems. If you're even outside this, not even outside the city limits, you could be inside the city limits and have this. So a lot of people want acreage, and I get that. I see that a lot. They want chickens, or they want a garden, or they want a shop, or they want a place to put their RV. And with these kinds of properties, you are going to have private systems. Okay, in Oklahoma, you've got 3 different kinds of setups. Of course, you can have city water, city septic. That also runs with trash typically as well. Pretty common, and if you want to live on a normal city lot, that's probably what you're going to get. Then we have other systems, like a rural water system with a private septic. Common. I grew up with this system myself. And that was a regular septic tank, the ones with the lateral lines. And then you could also have the private well, which is totally different than rural water, and then the private septic system. So a private well is just like a well on your own property, and they're dug to a certain depth. I can call my normal guy that inspects my wells and ask him hey, this is the address. How deep is this well? And he knows. The water table is pretty high here in Oklahoma. And then when you have this private well, of course, you're getting water from your own property, and then you have your septic, and the septic system is treating your wastewater. So the wastewater goes through your own private septic system. Oh, it's a lot to say. It's a lot of hard consonants. And then in some instances, I see that properties will have public water, but not a public septic system. It really depends on the area that you're in. So if you're shopping for homes, especially in the Oklahoma City metro, you're going to find homes on acreage that have private well and private septic. This is very common. This is really the only thing that makes rural living possible. These small towns aren't going to be able to provide you a lot of times with the public utilities that you would get if you were living closer into town. And I know so many of you want that. But there are some fears, I think, that come along with some of these systems. So let's talk about these 5 fears that I typically hear from people. When you have a well, can you actually drink the water? So I hear this a lot. I've never lived on a well before. I have so many clients and friends who do live on wells. And it's coming from your own land. So that is your water. And is it safe? We get it tested. When you buy a house that has a septic or that has a well system, we're going to get it tested. They send water samples to DEQ, which is Department of Environmental Quality in Oklahoma City here, to get it tested. Is the water more drinkable than city water? I hear this question a lot too. Listen, I don't drink city water. I live in Norman. I don't drink the Norman water. But they often tell pregnant women not to drink it. So to me, that's a huge red flag. I'm not going to drink it either if pregnant women aren't allowed to drink it. So we have a water bottle delivery service here where we live in Norman. A lot of people I know who have wells, they will install a whole house filtration system. You can do that on regular city water too. And I know that people will install water softeners. I will tell you that here in Oklahoma, the water is so hard, most of it. The water at my parents' house in northeastern Oklahoma is a little bit softer, but not very much. And it's just, it wreaks havoc on your hair, on your lines. And it does taste different, all those minerals in the water. So it's something to keep in mind, the water filtration system and also the water softener. So we get the well water tested. And does it sometimes come back dirty? Like that's what we call it? Yes. And is it easy to treat? Yes, it is easy to treat. So then what happens? This is number 2. If the well breaks, okay? So the well is more than just like the hole in the ground where the water is, right? There is plumbing that comes along with that to get the water into your house. There is the pump, and there's going to be the electrical system there with it too, because it has to run on something. So it usually runs on electricity to get that water out of your well. So things that can break: the pressure tank, 100% can break. The well pump itself, the electrical systems can get old. It's just like having an HVAC system, like our furnace and our air conditioning. Like, you don't expect those to last forever, and you shouldn't expect a well system to fully last forever either. This is the thing, right? So I'm so sorry, I had a nose itch. So what comes along with this is, maintenance costs, or like replacing the well, like the pump itself is one of the main ones that I see. And people complain about this. And like, I get it, it's expensive, but at the same time, you aren't paying a city bill. So you're not paying the $55 a month. That's what I pay for your water. So what you have to pay for is the pump and the pressure tank and the electrical system and the plumbing lines, like all of this stuff that goes along with it. So something to keep in mind if you are thinking about a property with a private well. Other things that the inspector inspects before you purchase a property is going to be like the flow rate. They look at all the system requirements, like the pressure tank and the pump itself and all the electrical stuff. So that way we can make sure that hopefully it's been at least taken care of, like maintained, if you're buying something that's resale or been used. This one I hear a lot, and it's that septic systems, like septic tanks or aerobic systems, sound really gross. And like, I'll hand it to you, they sound disgusting. They're basically like everything that is in your drain or going down your drains in your house is going into the system. If it's a septic tank, a conventional one with the lateral lines, then it's one tank. It's all going in there. If it's an aerobic system, it has 4 tanks. And everything gets separated out in those systems, and then the water returns to the ground. Now, that's a very simplified explanation, but it's like basically what happens. And if you have a property that's newer and is on less than, or it's on like 2 acres or less, you're going to have an aerobic system. That's just how it works. An aerobic system either has a seep system where like the water comes out through the through the like seeping out of the tanks, or you're going to have sprinklers that go off at like 3 a.m. Those are the 2 options. For a septic tank, a conventional one, the lateral lines is where the clean water is coming out of those lines back into the ground. So does it sound gross? Like, yeah, but we're gross. Humans are gross. So that septic stuff, the wastewater, it has to go somewhere. So either it's going back into the city system or it's going on your own property. And when it's on your own property, I mean, you're taking care of it. You have to take care of it. But it doesn't gross me out, but you probably just don't think about it too hard, like whenever you're in your house. But also know that there's going to be some maintenance that goes along with these systems themselves. But these are super common. Lots of people have them. So what if your septic system fails? So this is point number 4 for me. So if your septic system fails, it's probably not going to come out of nowhere. Like, it gives you hints. So you have to pay attention as you're living in your house. And there's also things that you have to do in order to maintain your systems, whether it's a conventional or an aerobic system. So a conventional system is going to be more simple than an aerobic system, like mechanically, because there's not as many moving parts. There's only like the tank and the lateral lines. The aerobic system has 4 tanks plus mechanisms that go along with it. It takes a little bit more. But if you're on less than 2 acres in Oklahoma and your house is newer, then you have to have the aerobic system. And the reason for this is because the lateral lines are long. So it's going to take up like your entire yard if that's what you have and you have less than 2 acres. So this is like a law that they created. I do have another video on conventional versus aerobic systems. I'm going to put it up here for you so you can go and watch it. So what happens in the winter and during power outages? So if you have a well system and your power goes out, then the well won't work because it's on electricity. So people, here's what they do. They have generators. It's a really common thing. They could have the huge generators, the ones, the Generacs that come on automatically, or you can have a tiny generator and one that you just have to go out and plug in manually. So it's different than being on city water. On city water, you don't have to have electricity to have water. That's a completely different system. But for a well, that's what it is. Another thing that people like to do is have extra water lying around. So extra water being in like jugs, or if you know a storm is coming, I know people that fill up their bathtubs. It sounds like interesting, but I mean, you have to prepare, right? Wells also freeze. The well itself won't freeze. Like the components will freeze. So the water that's underneath the ground, like that's not going to freeze. But if you don't run it, the water that's sitting in the components above ground will freeze if it gets too cold. And I know some of you from California, Arizona, like you haven't experienced those cold temperatures before. We do experience them here. Not a ton, but enough. So there are ways to help your well system keep running. Dripping water, of course, is one thing that keeps water running through your entire system. But also if you have a well house, then people will go ahead and put like a space heater in there to keep the water from freezing, and like they'll insulate their well houses and different things like that. So there are ways to maintain it. It's just different than when you have regular city water. So I'm Marcie and I am a real estate agent here in Oklahoma, and I make videos like this to help you learn what it's like to live here. So if you have questions or want to talk to me about purchasing a house here in Oklahoma, I'm going to put my phone number and my QR code here, and you can contact me. So here's what I tell my buyers for well and septic systems. Don't automatically eliminate a property because it has well and septic if you're just afraid and you haven't done the research yet. If you do the research and you're like, man, I just really don't want this, then we'll have to adjust what you're looking for, right? These systems, they're not a red flag on their own at all. We just have to make sure that they're maintained so that you don't run into any trouble when you first get into your house. I would go and watch this video next. It might be helpful for you, and I will see you next time.